Today I'll be showing you how to make your clay owl. This example is utilitarian. The pinch pot is pointing up so that I can put things inside. This example is non-utilitarian. The pinch pot has been turned upside down and it's just decorative. You can choose to make either one, but the steps that I go through today for adding the features are the same no matter which style you choose. First we'll start with making the pinch pot, and you'll receive a sphere of clay. So as we've practiced, take your thumb, push it in very deep, but don't let your thumb go all the way through, and then put these fingers together and start pinching and turning the pot. Your goal is to make it about as thick as your pinky. So this is obviously too thick, I need to keep pinching. And I pinch near the bottom and near the top. I don't want to get it too thin, because if I do, the walls of the pot aren't really strong enough to support the features of the owl. Now I want to get in there and make sure I'm also pinching near the bottom so it's not really thick down there. And your pot should be about that size. So for my example, I'm going to make a utilitarian owl, so I'm going to keep it turned this way. If I notice some cracking or wrinkles along the top of the pot, I can simply get a little bit of water on my finger to smooth them away. Don't try to do it with a dry finger, it doesn't work. You also don't want to add too much water because your clay will get muddy. So the first feature I'm going to make is the eyes. I'll get some extra clay out of my scrap container. Push some together to make a sphere. Roll it, smooth it out. It's about this size. And I'll take a popsicle stick and I can cut that in half. If I cut it evenly, then I have a better chance of having my eyes be the same size. Now roll these into two mini spheres. The eyes are not spheres, however. We're just getting the shape of a sphere so that we can press it down to make it a disc, a little round slab like that. It should be approximately the size of a quarter. Some of you might have bigger, some might have smaller. Again, there might be some cracking around the edges of the eyes. You'll just want to smooth them out with a wet finger. Along the top too if you need to. Now I have to do scratch and attach to put these eyes on. It looks like they would stick, but as we've discussed, when it dries they'll just pop off if you don't do scratch and attach. This tool is very handy for that. So I do a few up and down scratches, a few sideways scratches. Notice I'm not poking, I'm actually scratching. I'll need to do that on both of the eyes. And I also need to put scratches on the pot where I'm going to place the eyes. Before I put the scratches together, I have to put slip. That is that mixture of clay and water that acts like glue. I'm going to dab this on. I don't want to rub it in because if I rub it, it just rubs my scratches away. So once I place that on the scratches, then I push this into place. And I know that those eyes are not going to pop off. For the details on the eyes, I can take a tool and draw my circles. Get the extra clay off of your tool as you're working, or it gets in your way. It can mess up your drawing. You can draw your eyes however you want. This is just how I choose to do them. And the other one. Some of these clay crumbs you just get off with your tool. There we go. And there are my eyes. Now for the beak, more extra clay. I don't need as much as I used for the eyes. I'll make a small sphere, about this size. Then roll it just a little bit so it's kind of a chunky little coil. And I use my fingers and I turn and pinch to get one end of the coil pointy. And you can see if I turn it horizontally, it starts to look like a beak. And if I turn it down just a little bit, then it looks even more like a beak. I'm keeping that point, but I just took my horizontal line and just kind of bent it down a bit. Rub it with water, just a little if you need to. And again, we have to do scratch and attach. So this is the area where I'm going to be putting my glue. And of course I need to do that on the pot as well, just like before. Here's my slip. And now I'm ready to press this beak into place. There we go. Okay. Next, what I'd like to do are the ears. I think the easiest way to make the ears is to actually just create a slab that you cut 2 triangles out of. Don't press it down too much, because if it's too thin, then your ears are thin, and then they could break because they won't be very strong. So on this slab, you can cut a triangle like this. You can see about how thick it is. There's one ear, and there's the other. Use your fingers to shape it better if you need to. Now, these ears are going to go on my pot. They can go along the top rim, or they can go just behind the rim. It's up to you. I'm going to put mine on the top of the rim so you can see them well. I have to do my scratching and scratch the pot. Get my glue. There's one. And here's the other. And once I press them into place, I can actually use my fingers to smooth them on a little bit so they look like they're part of the body and not like they've just been stuck in place. You can see what I'm doing is kind of using the back of my fingernail to drag some of that clay down. And I can do that here on the back as well, just to make sure it's really stuck on well. And there are my ears. Next is going to be the wings. Take a larger chunk of clay here, get it into a ball. If it's dry, add a little bit of water. So start out with a nice sphere, then I cut that in half. Now this time I'm not going to roll these into 2 little spheres. What I'm going to do is just take that flat edge and just put it down on my placemat and just simply press with my palm to make another slab. And this slab will be sort of a circle or an oval shape, as you can see. And hopefully they're about the same size. Again, don't get them too thin. So there's my wings. If you've got cracking, add some water. Okay. Now my scratches. On the back of both. And scratches on my pot. See there? And on this side. Glue. It's better to use too much than too little. If some of it oozes out, we can just wipe it away, but if you don't use enough, then it might not be strong. That seems about right. And I press these on. If you choose to, once you know they're secure, you can take the bottom of the wing and just sort of flare it out a little bit if you'd like, or it can lay flat against the pot. So there's my wings. Now I'm going to make feet. Starting again with a sphere. And cut that in half. So they're about this big. Roll them into spheres again. They should be about the same size. There they are. Now flatten. Don't make them too thin. So I've got two little discs, two little round slabs. Okay. And what I like to do is take a tool such as this one, and I do a little cut, two of them, like this. And I can leave it like that, or I can use my fingers to kind of pull those little toes apart and shape them a little bit. If they look dry or cracked, add a little bit of water. That seems good. And these feet are going to rest just under the pot, so I don't have to scratch the whole bottom. What I need to do is just scratch kind of the edge here, where the glue is going to go. That's the area that's going to be touching the pot, not the entire foot. And down here, put some scratches too. And my glue. Press that in place. When I look down here, I can smooth that a little bit. Press my feet down so they're touching the table. There they are. Now you have the major features of the owl done. It's time to add some textures. You can use popsicle sticks if you'd like to push little curves, and that can create a texture that sort of looks like feathers. Or you can use a tool like you've been using that has a pointy end so you can draw. You can certainly draw lines on your feathers if you choose to. You can also add textures on the body and the front if you have room. You can add feather textures on the back too. And if you have extra time, you can add feathers, or like a tail feather, which would be the same as making these feathers, wings here, except it would be placed on the back if you have time. And there is our completed Pinch Pot owl.